guys celebrated way too early. Celebrating is an integral part in sports, especially when something phenomenal happens. However, it can also be incredibly embarrassing for you if you celebrate too early. In today's video, you're going to see 10 different scenarios where players and teams celebrated way too early, a decision that proves to be pretty costly in the end. Number 10, the Los Angeles Clippers and Phoenix Suns. This came last season during the Western Conference Finals. It was Game 2 and the Suns won the first matchup. Los Angeles had a few late-game possessions where the score was just a 1-point difference, and Paul George scored 2 critical buckets to keep him in the driver's seat. With 10 seconds left, Patrick Beverley stripped it from Devin Booker and got the ball back in the Clippers' hands with 7 seconds left, and they were still up by 1 point. At that point, everybody thought the game was essentially over, but George missed not one, but both free throws. Los Angeles was then in a state of panic to try and play defense the next possession because nobody wants to celebrate earlier and then still lose the game. That was when DeAndre Ayton sank that alley-oop throw by Jay Crowder during the inbounds. The ball went in with no time left on the clock, and the Suns won the game.
Crowder looking, throws an alley-oop. Oh! Ayton puts it down!
Number 9, Dwight Howard. Howard was on the Los Angeles Lakers here, and they were going up against the Sacramento Kings. He picked up a huge block on Harrison Barnes in the first half, then proceeded to do the finger wag to the fans right after. Unfortunately, he had an awful game the rest of the way. He fouled multiple times and had a few horrible turnovers, not to mention that he missed a few alley-oop attempts that were just wide open. This is just another example of why you don't celebrate too early. Number 8, Brooklyn Nets. This one came last season when the Nets were against the Milwaukee Bucks in the postseason. It was Game 7, and Kevin Durant had the ball in his hands down by 2 points. With it being the final possession of the game, Durant got some space and hit a turnaround jump shot that was originally marked as a three-pointer, meaning they thought they had won and advanced further into the playoffs. Of course, they started their celebration right after that, but the refs looked at it and determined his foot was actually on the line. That ruling sent the game into overtime, and Brooklyn just couldn't buy a bucket, eventually getting eliminated from championship contention.
Gathers his feet. The question is, was his toe on the line? And it looks like from that angle, it was on the line.
Number 7, Trey Young and the Atlanta Hawks. This squad was up against the Miami Heat in this matchup. Atlanta was up by 4 points with possession of the ball with exactly 1 minute left in the game. Young made a beautiful pass to a wide-open player under the net who finished the play and stretched the lead out to 6. Young began celebrating at half court on his way back, and their entire team knew that a win was on the way. However, in what felt like a flash, the Heat came back and sent the game into overtime. And this was when it really just started to fall apart for the Hawks. Not only did they go on to lose the game, but the final score was 135-121. It ended up being a blowout win for the Heat just minutes after Young and the Hawks had celebrated their 6-point lead.
Butler for the tie. Yes! The Butler did it!
Number 6, Russell Westbrook and the Houston Rockets. This Rockets team was playing at home, so the fans were all on their feet when the game had just a few seconds left. They were playing the Kings, and the score was all tied up at 116 apiece. Westbrook had possession of the ball, and he drove into the lane with 2 guys on him. Despite heavy coverage, Russ was able to contort and get a layup to fall in to give his team a 2-point lead with only 1 second remaining on the clock. Westbrook, his teammates, and the rest of the fans in the crowd began screaming and celebrating as if the clocks had already hit 0. It seemed like there wasn't a thought in their minds that the Kings would ever be able to get anything to go down for them while there was just 1 second left. But suddenly, disaster struck. Somebody on Houston forgot to switch on defense, leaving a brief window for a Kings player to break free and get a clean look from deep. The shot may have been pretty far out, but he sank it to give the Kings a 1-point win. The Rockets players just stood there stunned right after it happened.
Go home happy. Oh my goodness gracious!
Number 5, Kemba Walker. This video is a classic and one that will live on forever in NBA history. While playing for the Charlotte Hornets, Walker was set up for a wide-open 3-point shot. He chucked it up and everything looked like it was going to fall in, so much so that Kemba had even turned around and started to celebrate his made 3-pointer before the shot actually went in. On the camera angle that we got, you could literally see the ball bounce in and out and result in a miss. Even Walker had to laugh at himself after realizing how embarrassing the whole situation was. And hey, if you don't want to get embarrassed like Kemba, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Otherwise, you might be celebrating a little early yourself. Anyways, back to the video. Number 4, Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers. Back when Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen were running the Chicago Bulls, opposing teams wanted so desperately to beat them. In this situation, Reggie Miller and the Pacers were just about to do that. With seconds left on the clock, Miller found a way to get free and hit a fadeaway mid-range shot to give his team a 2-point lead. There was still 1 second left on the clock, but Miller had already gone to half court and started to give a bow to the entire Bulls arena. The very next possession, Chicago inbounded the ball and hit a 3-pointer to end the game and give the Bulls the win.
Tony got it, put it up, look out!
Number 3, the Washington Wizards. This one was brutal. The Wizards were down by 3 points against Atlanta in a heated playoff series. Atlanta held a 3-2 lead in the series, and with a few seconds left on the clock, Washington needed to score or else they'd be eliminated. Somehow, in the midst of a chaotic possession, Washington fired up a Hail Mary 3-point shot and got it to fall to even up the game and send it into overtime. The fans in the Wizards arena went crazy, and all the players circled around because of that miraculous shot, just thankful that their season hadn't ended yet. Unfortunately, the officials reviewed the play and determined that the player didn't actually release the ball from his hands until the clocks had hit 0, meaning the shot was no good, waved off, and the Wizards' season was over. Talk about a rough way to have your season ended. Number 2, the New York Knicks. Just in case that last one wasn't bad enough, we got another one with kind of the same situation. The Knicks were going up against the Hornets in this one, and New York was down by 2 points with a few seconds left in the game. It was all or nothing for him on this possession. Kristaps Porzingis got open late in the clock and fired away a deep 3-pointer that eventually fell in to give his team the win. The Knicks fans rose to their feet while the entire team surrounded Porzingis for this game-changing shot.
Here we go. Thomas gets it into Porzingis from 3. It's good.
Fast forward a little bit though, and same story, the refs were waving their hands as if to signal no basket. They'd looked at the replay and saw that he did not get it off in time, just like that last clip. Well, the Knicks couldn't believe what they just heard. The Charlotte fans were the ones bouncing up into the air now that they were announced the winners of the game. Number 1, the Washington Wizards once again. This was one of the worst cases of celebrating too early I've ever seen, mostly because of how costly it was. Washington was taking on the Toronto Raptors, and at the start of this clip, there were 4 seconds left. The Wizards were fouled and knocked down a free throw to stretch the lead out to 3. Toronto quickly fired a deep inbounds pass across the court, hoping to get a Hail Mary shot off just in time. A Washington player intercepted the ball though and then threw it up into the air in celebration for the game being over. The only problem was that the game wasn't over. A different Raptors player caught the ball and fired up a prayer at the rim before the clock hit 0, banking it in and tying the game up so that it went into overtime. Everybody on the Wizards just stopped and stared at the guy who had literally given the game right back to him after they had sealed it. And it was all in one possession as well.
Open. And the play continues. Peterson got it! I don't believe it! I don't believe it!
And with that, we officially hit the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to check out the video on the right, as we think you're gonna like it. Or you could click the one on the left, because YouTube thinks that's the one for you.